So here we are, the 10th generation Pixel. 10 years of Google trying to build the ultimate Android phone. A decade of experiments, breakthroughs, and missteps. And with the Pixel 10, Google says it's finally delivering the most polished, most premium Pixel ever. But after a decade of maybe just next year, is this really the one that proves that Google has cracked the code? Well, at first glance, the Pixel 10 lineup, it doesn't look all that different, does it? It's got the same camera bar, same rounded corners, same minimalist design language, but use them for more than a few days and the differences become pretty obvious. There are some genuine upgrades here, a few subtle and a few pretty big, and together they show that Google is finally building towards something that feels competitive. Now, I've been using both the Pixel 10 and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, and here's my take. The Pixel 10, it's not a flagship, and that's fine because for its price, it's a really strong performer that will suit most people. The Pro XL though, it is a different story. This is the most complete Pixel Google has ever built, and for the first time, in my opinion, it feels really like a rival to the iPhone 16 Pro Max and even the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. But let's start with the Google Pixel 10. It comes in at 1,349 Australian dollars, the same price as before, and it is immediately easy to like. This new indigo blue colorway, it looks pretty fantastic and classy without being boring, and the size as well is spot on. It's compact, it's comfortable to hold, and it's really easy to use one-handed, which is something I certainly don't get enough of these days. And it feels premium without being unwieldy, and honestly, it's just a refreshing phone to use. The big upgrade for the Pixel 10 is actually here, the camera system, because for the first time, the base Pixel gets 3 lenses on the back, a 48 megapixel wide main shooter with optical image stabilization and macro focus, a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 10.8 megapixel 5x telephoto. And that's a proper versatile setup, and it's impressive to see even on a phone at this price. You now get wide shots, ultra wide landscapes, and proper optical zoom without needing to buy a Pro phone. But of course, there are trade-offs. It is the cheapest Pixel, after all. The main and ultra-wide sensors are actually smaller than what we had on the Pixel 9, and you can see it in the results. Photos are good, they are sharp enough and with natural colors, but they still feel undercooked in different ways. Colors can lean a little muted, brightness isn't always consistent, and the ultra-wide in particular just struggles for anything close up. Try shooting flowers or food up close with this, and it'll often look just soft and washed out. Video though, it is a different story because the stabilization, even on this base Pixel, is excellent. Clarity is strong and the footage, it just looks polished. This is one of the best video performers, at least at this price point, and it's where you really see Google are starting to close the gap with Apple. Finally, the front-facing 10.5 megapixel selfie camera is solid too. Its autofocus is quick and it produces natural skin tones, though it has not seen the big upgrades that we see in the Pro models. The display that you see here is a 6.3-inch Actua OLED at 1080 by 2424, running between 60 to 120 Hertz. Brightness now peaks at 3000 nits, which is a huge step up from last year, and it genuinely makes a difference outdoors. The one limitation though is that it doesn't have LTPO, so you don't get the fancy 1 Hertz refresh rates or the wallpaper always on display. Still, for day-to-day use, it looks excellent. And powering it is the all-new Tensor G5 chip. And this is important because for the first time, Google's custom chip is actually built by TSMC on a 3nm process. Google claims around 34% faster CPU performance and 60% stronger AI performance compared to last year. And in practice, the phone definitely feels smoother. It feels snappier and certainly more capable. And you get the same silicon in the Pixel 10 as you do in the $2,000 Pro XL, which is a big win for the base model, but a bit of a loss for the Pro XL. But a big compromise for the Pixel is actually just its storage. The Pixel 10 starts at 128 gigabytes, and in 2025, that's tight, especially when Google promises 7 years of updates. After the system and the apps, you've got maybe 80 gigabytes of usable space, and yes, Google wants you to pay for Drive, but not everyone wants to rely on cloud storage. Battery life though, it is solid. The 4,970 milliamp hour cell comfortably lasts a full day of use. Charging speeds are unchanged at 30 watts wide, but the big new feature is wireless. Every Pixel 10 now supports Pixelsnap, which is Google's branding for Qi 2 magnetic charging. This is Google's MagSafe moment, essentially. The magnets snap accessories firmly into place, and it charges at 15 watts. And of course, it works with MagSafe stands, wallets, or accessories. But for me, being able to throw the Pixel 10 onto the same chargers I use for my iPhone without fiddling for a cable, which I honestly just don't use anymore, it's a game changer. So really, the Pixel 10, it has compromises. It's got smaller sensors than last year for the cameras, it's got no LTPO display, and limited storage, but for its price, it is a strong, well-rounded performer. You're getting a really comfortable design, triple cameras, Qi 2 charging, and the same Tensor G5 chip as the flagship, but for hundreds of dollars less. And no, it's not perfect, but it is excellent value and a great option for people who just want an Android phone that works well. And then there is this, the Pixel 10 Pro XL, which is definitely grabbing all of the headlines. At 1,999 Australian dollars, again, the same price as before, it is competing directly with Apple and Samsung's best. And for the first time ever, it feels like it belongs in that conversation. The design is super refined and premium. I love the silky matte glass back, the polished aluminium frame, even the diamond cut accents around the camera bar look really, really sharp. And the jade colorway has really grown on me. I asked for it. I didn't think I'd like it, but I'm glad they've sent this one because it looks good. The phone is still big, no doubt about it, but the build quality is excellent. And the speakers, by the way, are the best that Google has ever shipped. It's loud, it's clear, it's balanced. They feel like they've finally matched the rest of the premium package, and that's because they've replaced the speaker at the top of the phone. The display itself, it is absolutely stunning. A 6.8-inch Super Actua LTPO OLED at 1344 by 2992 resolution. Because it is LTPO, it is adaptive from 1 to 120 Hertz and up to 3300 nits of peak brightness. And that is brighter than last year's model by a huge margin. And it finally competes with the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Galaxy S25 Ultra in direct sunlight. It's smooth, it's vibrant, the wallpaper always on display is a subtle but genuinely enjoyable touch. I use it at night, for example. But the camera system is where a lot of attention has gone because there's a bit of the same, but there's also quite a lot of new. So on the back, you've got the same 50 megapixel wide main sensor, but it now has double the stabilization range thanks to an upgraded OIS, or optical image stabilization. It's got a 48 megapixel ultra wide with macro focus and a 48 megapixel 5x telephoto. On the front, you get a brand new 42 megapixel selfie camera with a 103-degree field of view, and of course, autofocus. On paper, it is nearly identical to last year's Pro XL, which is kind of disappointing, right? But the upgrades that are here actually do make a big difference. The double optical image stabilization on the main shooter is a game changer for video. Along with a bunch of subtle software updates they've done to make processing a bit better, the handheld footage is smoother, pans are steadier, and low light clips, they look much more cinematic. This is definitely the best Pixel video ever, and in some cases, I would even go so far as to say it is genuinely competing with the iPhone. As you guys know, we use our iPhones a lot, especially when we're filming cars overseas, and so I'm gonna be running longer term tests on this. I really think that this camera could be just as good, if not better, than iPhone in some situations. Photos from the wide and the telephoto lenses in particular are excellent. Natural colors, sharp details, and really great depth. The telephoto in particular produces incredibly crisp results. To be fair, it is the same focal lengths as before, but the ultra wide remains the weak link. Close-up macros often look washed out or just have no focus, and colors can feel flat compared to rivals. Here's a photo of a lemon on the wide camera, the main camera, and it looks near perfect. Vibrant, sharp, natural, the yellows pop. Switch to the ultra wide and it has lost all of that. And the same thing with these pink flowers. The wide angle has nailed it. The ultra wide, it has completely missed focus and drained the color. I guess the new 42 megapixel selfie camera though, it is absolutely fantastic. Its wide detailed autofocus works beautifully. Selfies and video calls, they look great. But again, is it the best in class? Well, I would say that's rather subjective. I mean, Apple still definitely has the edge in tricky lighting, but this is by far the best selfie camera that Google has shipped, for example. Then there is ProRes Zoom, which pushes zoom all the way to 100 times. What happens is between 30 times and 100 times zoom, it actually uses local AI to upscale and essentially re-render the image. So as a photographer, it really makes you think, is this an image or is this simply AI? At least it gives you the option to see what it would look like without AI. And to be fair, it does a great job most of the time. Or some of the time anyway. For example, I pointed the 100 times at some pigeons in the park and it made a cursed image. Their bodies look fine, but I've got no idea what's going on with their heads. Same with a car. You can tell that this is a coupe BMW SUV. However, it has completely ruined the badges, so that isn't right, clearly. Though to Google's credit, and I did test this, the system will not alter humans' faces, which is a really good safeguard. But like I said, at what point is this 100 times zoom just not even real? But hey, at least you know that the AI performance on this is genuinely good. Speaking of, performance is handled by the same Tensor G5 chip as the base Pixel, but here you get 16 gigabytes of RAM and up to 1 terabyte of storage. Built on TSMC's 3nm process, it's faster and more efficient than anything Google has made before. My local CPU test showed that this is around 31% better performance than last year's Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which is a meaningful jump. But the phone does still heat up quickly under heavy load, so while it has improved, Google has not solved the thermal issues entirely. Battery life though is excellent. The Pro XL packs a 5200 milliamp hour cell, and I've been consistently getting a day and a half of use easily. Wired charging is faster now at 45 watts with 0 to 70% in just 30 minutes, and wireless charging is finally competitive. In fact, it's more than competitive because with Pixelsnap, i.e. Qi 2.2, at least on the XL only, you get 25 watts of wireless charging. This is actually one of the most meaningful upgrades because it makes wireless charging truly viable. Most new cars now ship with Qi pads, and as someone who spends a lot of time in cars, reviewing cars, driving cars, just dropping this Pro XL onto the pad and actually getting a fast charge is huge. And like I said with the Pixel at home, it just works perfectly with MagSafe stands as well. The AI features this year are very Google. Ambitious, they're clever on paper, and even magical when they land, but they're mostly inconsistent. Magic Queue is probably the best example. The idea is brilliant. When you're texting or calling, the phone should proactively surface the info you need from your Gmail, calendar, maps, literally everything that you would normally use anyway and that Google has your data on. From flight details, dinner reservations, confirmation numbers, all popping up as little rainbow bubbles you can tap instead of hunting through apps. When it works, it feels like a glimpse of the future. But in my experience, which to be fair has been about 90% of the time, it was just hit and miss. For example, Jacob messaged me, "When is your flight to Munich? I'm traveling next week." Nothing. Okay, well, what if we add the day and the month in there? Ooh, then we get something. But then it's just a prompt to open up the calendar, which I can do anyway, I guess. In fact, once it even suggested that I try and call Jacob instead of the restaurant that I was actually trying to book. It's not exactly what you want from a smart assistant. The AI call handling was really similar, to be honest. I could never get it to trigger properly. Despite multiple tests, long conversations, it just wouldn't work. And now that doesn't actually mean that these features are useless. Honestly, it likely comes down to region, early software, maybe even user error, though I tried. And to be fair to Google, even Apple Intelligence has famously had similar issues in its first release. Features that demo beautifully on stage, but out in the wild. Real world context, it often just reveals big gaps. And it's the nature of rolling out this bleeding edge AI that is exciting when it works, but then it honestly just becomes frustrating when it doesn't. Although other AI features already feel way more finished. Camera Coach, for example, it gives live suggestions to improve your framing. Step a little to the side, avoid a shadow, maybe even try a different facial expression. It certainly won't replace creativity, but it's surprisingly helpful for casual shooters. Auto Best Take is another highlight. You take a burst of group shots and it intelligently composites everyone's best face into one frame. That's the kind of AI that just quietly solves a real problem without overthinking it. So right now, it is definitely a mixed bag for AI features. Some features genuinely improve your experience today. Others, they clearly need more time in the oven. But if there's one thing that Pixels are known for, it's evolving. Those regular Pixel drops can turn half-baked features into must-haves within a year. And honestly, that is definitely a big part of Pixel's identity. But also, you should never buy a product based on a promise. What does stand out though is just the software experience itself. The Pixel 10 Pro XL, it runs Android 16 and it's one of the cleanest, most refreshing versions of Android that you could possibly use. It's got no skins, no bloatware, no gimmicks. It's just smooth, fluid animations, clear menus, and 7 years of updates, by the way, ahead of it. And this is one of the biggest reasons that people buy a Pixel. And on the Pro XL, it is a joy to use. It makes the phone feel lighter, faster, and more consistent than rivals, even when the hardware story isn't quite as flashy. So where does that leave us? Well, the Pixel 10 is a compact, well-priced option that gives you a triple camera setup, the same Tensor G5 chip as the flagships, Qi 2 charging, and a really good software experience, all for 1,349 Australian dollars. Yes, it has compromises, but for its price, it's a really strong performer and one of the best all-rounders in its class. The Pixel 10 Pro, and of course the Pro XL, is the most complete Pixel Google has ever built. Premium design, brighter LTPO display, excellent stabilized video, faster charging, a much improved selfie camera, and a genuinely clean, refreshing software experience. But it of course is not flawless. The ultra-wide camera still really lags behind. The AI features are very hit and miss. It also heats up really, really quickly. But I have to say, for the first time, the Pixel really feels like it belongs in the same league as Apple and Samsung's flagship. And it's going to be my Android daily driver going forward because I really like it. It is real progress. And if you want the cleanest software experience and Google's most premium hardware to date, the Pixel 10 Pro XL is definitely the one to look at. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Please do subscribe if you haven't already because we have plenty of really cool videos coming. And of course, I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao for now.